Draper, how's it going, my man?
What's up, brother? Hey, another week. Blessed.
Another week.
Let's get it on. Let's get it on, man. Lots of RMAC. Come on. Let's go.
We're a little late in the week, but it was Halloween week. Some of us got kids, so we're a little late. We apologize for that. But, man, we got to recap the game of the week last week, and we got a little bit of video thanks to Amelia Lucasen up at Western, Colorado. The Mountaineers got it done for the first time since 2016. Western finally beats Mines. Last year's game wasn't so close, but the previous two times were games Western probably felt like they should have won. This time they came out and got it done. As you can see, that defense was flying around. Mines could run the ball. Evan Foster was running for his life all day. It was all Western until about the fourth quarter. Mines had a furious comeback, but Western was able to hold them off. As you can see, I'm just going to let some of this video roll. You could react a little bit. Look, Ricky Freeman got that. He might be playing on Sundays, people. That might be a guy that plays on Sundays with that motor and whatnot. Reminds me of a young Jared Allen. Just the film speaks for itself, dude.
I mean, just sitting here watching, you're just like, dude. I mean, like you said, I mean, we've got the highlights going, but that fourth quarter got pretty.
That fourth quarter got a little scary. Hey, shout out to my boy Elias. My boy Elias Zarate, Denver North High School DPS. Shout out to him doing it big. Braden Hogan, the Columbine product, just ping-ponging defenders right here and going to the house.
Just like fearless, like relentless to go down. And it's crazy is, Western's known for these types of running backs. There's an NFL player that we've played against, that we've had to go tackle, that have done very similar things. I know to me, a couple plays, I bounced off those quads, with Austin Eckler. And kid, I mean, he's right there with him, dude. I mean, there he is again.
How about this defensive end duel though? Jaden Young and Ricky Freeman. Both guys had 3 TFLs. Jaden Young had a forced fumble. We got I just feel really bad for Evan Foster, dude. He was running for his life. And you're going to see once we pull up the statistics, he didn't have a bad day through the air. It's just most of the times he was on his back, quite frankly. Ricky Freeman, again. Like I said, Western, those two defensive ends, 96 and 97, they wrecked the game. You see those statistics, 5 tackles, 3 tackles for Jaden, both 3 TFLs. Both were getting to the quarterback. Braden Hogan had himself a day. And Drew Nash, man. Drew Nash, just week after week, he started the season kind of using his legs more so than his arm. But this week, I was really impressed with him just standing in the pocket and firing. That touchdown pass he threw to Elias was beautiful. He rolled out, defensive end got in his face, stopped on a dime, just turned, fired. Like, that was stuff like that makes my heart smile. So big kudos to Western. But as you can see on this box score, 21 points scored by Mines in that fourth quarter. When Mines was able to protect Evan Foster, they had success through the air.
Yeah, no, and I'll take the L last week. I took Mines to obviously win this one. So you got the W there. Yeah, I'll give you it. But like we kind of got to is how dominant the D line for Western, really the defense in general, how dominant they can be, and how much pressure they bring. You really got to give it to Evan Foster, man. I mean, 21 to 30, 9 passes that were missed. Again, a couple of those very, very close to being caught. A couple of them, obviously, were just kind of, get rid of the ball. There's pressure. But, I mean, the stats, they kind of speak for themselves right there. The highlight video shows you, one side there. But the box score is kind of the big thing to kind of picture right here is, it started out fire. I was texting you. I actually ended up calling you at halftime, just trying to see. I was like, hey, what's it like out there? What's the atmosphere? I bet, Mines feels pretty confident now. And I was like, I also feel like Western's coming out of the half. And I was like, I think they get the ball, they're going to feel really confident. And, here's where you look at Mines and you say, like, they've never done this. Never have they ever gone up and down in the history of Mines program. They've always been straight up, right? And Western caught them on that day where they thought they could kind of play it soft and kind of float up and then, turn into fourth quarter Mines that we've known to blow away and run away with games. But that's where you kind of got to give your credit to Western. They put the gas on. They were able to, keep a little bit on, and then when Mines wanted to really just throw it all out there, Western was able to kind of match it, and that kind of makes you realize Western really is a team to deal with. And maybe the South Dakota South Dakota Mines game was a fluke, and that's why they fell back behind a little bit. But you see it week in and week out. Honestly, with them, they're great in all aspects of the game: special teams, offense, defense. They're well rounded to where this team can make a great push into the playoffs. But to go back to Mines, I really think this game it really doesn't kick them out of the playoffs. They released the regional kind of estimation of the top 10 teams. No real order of how they were, but you see, Mines was up there, Western was up there, Pueblo was up there, and Mesa was up there, right? So the 2 losses, there's 4 teams out there with 2 losses. Mines still has a chance to get in there, potentially be a 7th seed. Western continues to win out. They're going to be potentially the 1 seed in the region and get to actually have that week off, and then welcoming teams up to the Mountaineer Bowl. Come try to breathe this fresh air. We love it. We're the thin air crew. So, great. Honestly, a great game both sides. Just kind of what we were hoping for. We hoped for a game, and mine showed up in the 4th and kind of made us go like, okay, what's going on here? So, yeah.
I love that you highlighted that Mines isn't done. 2 losses. Not last year, but the year before, they lost 2 games and still went to the national title. Yeah. So for the boys at Mine, rally the troops. You guys are all right. You lost to a top 10 team in the nation in a close game that you came back and you could have won if a couple things go your way. So I don't think Mine should be too down on themselves, and they got a big date in Pueblo in a couple weeks to where they could really spoil some things. But that wasn't the only game we had this week. Shadron Black Hills. If I'm not mistaken, I think I picked Shadron in this one. Yep. So you take the dub on this one. But it was close, dude. If I'm not mistaken, Wilson Yee missed a game-time field goal that would have taken this thing to overtime. Yep. So Shadron, once again, is in a position to at least extend the game, and Wilson Yee comes up a little bit short. I know that had to be tough for him. But Black Hills, they get to 500 heading into their matchup with Mesa. What do you think of this game?
This was the one where I kind of was texting you, and it was the later game of the RMAC, and so we kind of got to enjoy it a little bit, and then life kind of took on. But the first half that I truly got to watch, man, I mean, the box score, obviously it says 14-7, but it really could have been 21-0 from Shadron. It could have been 28-0 Black Hills. There were certain plays that really could have made a big difference. The overall aspect of the game is kind of a heartbreaker for Shadron because they've been in that situation now. This is their second time to kind of be in a game where they potentially could have won, and really they've had all their games this year. They're 3-5, but their minds loss was very close. This game, very close. They're putting together flashes, and DJ Rolfe, the dude is just extending plays. I mean, you don't just throw up 408 yards. This isn't just oh, hey, this isn't Madden. This isn't NCAA. We're not playing on fresh.
It's not a walkthrough on air.
Right. He's getting pressured by a very good, again, pretty great, in my thought, a defense. Really the way they kind of play as a whole. And he's extending the play. He's rolling out. He's taking the hits. And he's lefty. I've already talked about it. I hated playing a lefty quarterback. You think about it day in, day out. You're reading a right-handed in practice, and I got lucky with Stevie coming in my senior year. He was lefty, and we played against the lefty the first year, our first game. And it kind of made me kind of used to it, but it looks different. So when he's back there, making plays. The receivers are running different routes really than you're used to. It's something that you can look at and be like, all right, we're here. We just got to get here. We just got to get over this hump. And
it has to be really frustrating for them because it's like, how much longer are they going to keep staying here right at this hump? Like, you got Tommy Thomas rounding back into form this game, 146 yards, and you lose. Like, I know Shadon has to be really frustrated. When we get to the tail of the tape for their next game, you'll see on the statistics, they average 21 points a game. They're only averaging giving up 16, and yet they have a losing record.
Yeah.
I know I would be really frustrated if I was on that team. So I don't know really where. I mean, obviously they're going to try to finish the season strong, but man, what a season it could have been. You know, you get that mind win. Like, they should be a 5-3, 6-2 team, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like, it's literally those one. I say it weekend. I say it every week. You know, like those 4 plays a game, they make a difference, and that comes in the February, the March, you know, the April. Those workouts. You know, when you're sitting there in your weight room, you go in on a Friday and it's 10 sets of 10. You lock in. You know, you're like, I gotta hit this, and then you do that extra rep because you're going an extra step. You know, that's where it all kind of ties into. So you nobody really accounts that. You know, they're like, oh, I skipped a rep. You know, I was tired, but then you do it twice in a week, and it kind of snowballs effects. And then you get into a game and you miss by 1 rep, you miss by 2 reps, and just kind of going to go to a side fact out of that though. It's a shout out to the kid though, the kicker out of Shadon. Keep your head up. I got to kick field goals as a backup my whole career. Got to kick a field goal my senior year. I missed my first one, and I missed a couple more after that. But you know, life continues, right? Like, there's a lot of pressure as a kicker. Nobody sees that, but just go out and nail the next 4. You know, like in practice, you gotta sit there, and everybody has a bad day or it was a rough day, but get back out there and go get a winner next week. You know, go get your boys back this next week.
Before we get out of here, I do want to give some shout outs. Nick Quinones, RMAC Defensive Player of the Week, 10 tackles, a pick. I saw him have a pick at Mines in person against Flynn Sheely, like in one-on-one coverage. Like, he's been doing his thing. Shout out to the Quinones boys. And then Dak Shirati for Shadron. I think he's one of the more underrated safeties in the conference. I believe he just tied Tommy for the lead in picks, and he cribbed that one, if I'm not mistaken, too. So big shout out to him. Hunter O'Connor, too, man. Look at that, showing up. TFL, a sack. So you like to see that from Shadron. You just like to see them finish and actually get in the victory column in a game. Not because obviously they have 3 wins on the season, but win one of these close games where they drive the field to put themselves in positions, you'd like to see them actually follow through and get that done. But moving along, we got the boys. The boys from GJ went up to Durango and had themselves a time. You know, Liu Amave, 16 of 18, 144. We all know Mesa's not really trying to beat you over the top through the air. They want to pound the ball, and boy, did they do that. They had, I want to say Aiden Taylor was over 100. Sean Kidd got over 100. Shout out to him. You know, he's just been a grinder the past few years. Maybe hasn't got all the reps he wanted, but got some opportunity, made the most of it. Brendan Belgrave, I want to say he was close to 100. They had 3 guys that were close to 100 just out of their backfield. So Mesa just kind of keeps rolling. Defensively, Hunter Hamilton has to have that freshman defensive player of the year with his name written all over it. 2 more sacks. I want to say he's second in the conference behind Ricky Freeman up at Western. So the Mavs just did their thing. This is kind of what we expected. I didn't think that Fort Lewis would have much success against this staunch Mesa defense, and they sure didn't. 9 for 23, 51 yards, a pick. They really limited Stone. And yeah, the Mavs are rolling, dude. I know I probably come off like a little bit like a homer because I got the Mavs helmet just this shoulder behind me. But I'm just being honest, dude. they play tough, hard-nosed football, great defense, and they run the ball. That can win for you, especially when as this weather starts getting a little bit colder and the conditions get a little bit more frigid. I think Mesa's really built to make some noise this year.
Yeah, Mesa do that. I mean, they came out and they kind of first quarter. And again, this game I texted you. I was like, man, the first quarter is kind of boring. Like I was like, this is kind of boring. Like there's a lot of stuff happening, but not really happening. I was like, where are the points? Second quarter, that we get a touchdown, we get another touchdown. I'm like, okay, here we go. We're gonna start putting points on, and then it kind of stopped again. I was like, okay, let's go. Third quarter, here we go. We're gonna start putting points on. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. And it's like if that offense can kind of stay with that fire and not burst. The points. It looks great. You won 49-0. The record shows the team that you just played, right? Like it's like you got 49 points. That's something that they obviously need. The Mavericks, they need it. Obviously, they're a growing program. They're growing with they need those big wins. They need the small wins. For the defense, I believe this might be one of the first shutouts that they've put up. And so it's like a massive thing. Like that is a huge thing. You got to give a huge shout out to Coach Matthews out there with the zero defense. It's something that he personally built and all the players buy into. It's something. It's truly awesome. Jakari going out there making plays. It's cool to see him get back in there, and when an opportunity happens, he takes advantage of it. But like you said with Hunter Hamilton, I don't really think there's going to be a question for the defensive player of the year, the freshman of the year. It's just the kid is a stud. Mesa got a steal, and they're going to get 3 more years out of him, and he's only going to grow. And this team's only going to grow. So this next season, a lot of this team's only going to be juniors. And the next, they're playing. They're 6-2 right now with a lot of teams or with a lot of players that are starting at freshmen, sophomore, few juniors, few seniors. Like they're a very young team, and it's good to see them rumbling. Rumbling Mavs. But they get a little bit of a test here to come to the end of their season. So, they have a shot. They're kind of driving their way into the playoffs right now. They're sitting very pretty in that 5-6 spot. Really is what I think that they'll sit in the region beautifully, and they also have a chance to be a RMAC shareable title or RMAC whole title. It really just depends on them. They're 6-2, but they only have 1 loss in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And, they already beat Mines. They now play Western soon, but Western, and obviously we'll get to that, Western and Pueblo, they're going to beat up on each other first. Then we kind of figure out what comes up. Mace's kind of chopping wood, just keep getting better, keep sharpening your iron. We'll get our chance to, show it off. And it's really a shocker that they are not ranked. Their 2 losses are the 2 teams that are in the top 10 and 11. I believe Central Washington's 11. You just got to be like, come on now. Like, I know nobody wants to see 4 RMAC teams ranked, but
it's just a Mesa thing. We used to feel like we were always being like underappreciated. I don't know why people don't think the Mavs can't play, but the Mavs just keep proving it. And I just want to obviously getting a big win over Mines, a big upset is huge and really uplifting for a program. But I feel like the real measure of a program is what do you do in games like this? Yeah. Do you play down to your competition, or do you kind of show you're here and we're up here? And I think Mesa did that. Obviously, that first quarter 0-0. Shout out to Fort Lewis for coming out with a little bit of fight and punch. But I think Mesa imposed their will as good teams should. And I think it was a good win, nonetheless.
Yeah, 100%.
Speaking of another good win, I think this is a really good win for Highlands. You see, they really did not. They weren't committed to passing the ball. They were like, you know what? We're gonna make Adams prove they can stop us on the ground. And Tavita Valetti, who we just talked about, the RMAC offensive or defensive freshman of the year. I don't see how this guy's not going to be the offensive freshman of the year. He's the lead back, 37 carries. Let's just take a second for everybody that maybe hasn't played football. There's something I want to say. Obviously, if you're touching the ball this many times, you're going to take some damage. But as a running back specifically, like that's a lot of punishment, dude, that he took throughout a game. You know what I mean? I think he needs some credit and recognition just for the toughness. I know I wouldn't want to make 37 tackles in a game. You know, I wouldn't want to be tackled 37 times. So big shout out to him. A lot of tread on those young legs, and it's showing. The 4 TDs on the ground. And then Adams just obviously, I think this might be their strongest offensive output of the season. So maybe a positive sign, but couldn't stop the run to save their lives.
No, yeah. I mean, Adams kind of on that same trend of defense shows up and puts them in the chance to do something. And it kind of hurt, you know. It really hurt, you know. It's like you're sitting there, you're like 10-play drive. This guy's running down my throat, coach. I've made 8 tackles. I am so tired, and my offense is out here 3 and outs. Okay, all right, coach. Okay, and I just made 5 more tackles. It's just like it's like. You're just like, come on, tap me out here. Somebody else play. Somebody's got to help here. So to see them get points, yes, that's a positive. You know, we're doing something. We got a few drives where the defense is like, thank you. You know, like we actually get 2 drinks of water this time. You know, and but you know, you flip it over to New Mexico. It's just like they prove the point. We want to do one thing. And one thing only, and that's run the ball at you. Are you going to be able to tackle me? And are you going to be able to stop me from getting 3 yards? You need 3.3 yards every play, and you win the drive, right?
3 yards in a cloud of dust, man.
I mean, 37 carries, 200 yards, 4 TDs. I guarantee you he wasn't tackled on 4 plays. So 33 of those. Ouch. 200 yards. And even then, some of those, I guarantee he's running for 20 yards or runs out of bounds. I'm just like, this kid's crazy. You know, it's like, where's this been the whole time? You know, well, I mean, he's been there the whole time. He's been doing it, but it's like, why couldn't we just do 37 carries? And Derrick, you know, all right, Derrick Henry, let's do it, you know? But I mean, this you know, it's positive both sides. You know, second win for coach out there. You're building the program history. You're getting up there. I really think statistically, New Mexico has kind of been 2-1-win team the last couple of years. So first year, you've at least kind of tied that mark of like, okay, here's what we're going to set. Next year, 2 more wins. Next year, 4 more wins. And we see it with CU. You know, with Boulder. Everybody likes to clown on Boulder because they want to hate on the coach. But, you know, you got to respect what he's doing. You know, you come in, you take over a program that didn't win, you get a few wins, you get a medium amount of wins, and now you're bowl eligible. So that's kind of where you're looking at from Highlands, in which, I mean, they can look at multiple teams in the RMAC of where they started less than 3 years ago and now where they're doing now, you know. So I really do think New Mexico Highlands will be a team to watch in the coming years, especially if they can keep some of these young guys and develop them. And if this kid's going to run for 37 times a game, he better be squatting 525 for 4 reps in the gym and never missing a rep. And I'm talking like eating protein bars and doing great things out there in Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Well, based on his name, I imagine he can lift. You know how the Paulies are.
Yeah.
The strongest dudes on the team every time.
They really are.
I think this was a big dub in the sense of how they got it done. Coach T talked about at the RMAC preseason show. He talked about just wanting to be a physical, you know, in your face kind of team, and that was physical, in your face kind of win. Giving
Yes.
a guy 37 carries, that's a smash mouth football to say the least. But Pueblo had a bye, so we only had those 4 games. Looking at our slate next week, obviously, the big one, number 10, traveling up actually in elevation too,
Very much.
up to number 8, Western Colorado in Gunnison. Last week when we got to the tell of the tape segment, I couldn't wait to. It was almost like like that kid that's ready to turn in his homework. I was like, I got Western, and I know I got it right. This week though, I don't know, man. I'm sitting here right now, feel a little bit undecided. I lean towards Western being home and just seeing them in person for the first time this season last week. But I also don't want to. I don't want to have a recency bias, just because I just recently seen them. But when I do think about the last time I saw Pueblo, it was a game that, frankly, I thought they deserved to lose. So, with that being said, I do think Pueblo will be able to present Western some problems. I don't know that Western is going to harass whoever's playing quarterback for Pueblo as much as they did Evan Foster. I imagine the Pueblo guys watch that film and might have some slides and protections in towards Ricky Freeman's way to maybe nullify him a little bit. And I do think Pueblo does have the talent and ability to attack Western over the top. I think they definitely got the receivers that can have success against Western's secondary. But I'm going to go with Western. Western's won the last 4, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of those happening down in Pueblo. This one's going to be up at their brand new Mountaineer Bowl Mojo Field. I just feel like the energy and everything is going to be just electric. And I think Western's going to have a whole new confidence after finally getting that done at Mons. I think Western's going to be walking around a little different this week. So I'm going to go with Western, but I wouldn't be surprised if Pueblo won either. I think Western wins it close by less than 10 points. What say you?
Oh, less than 10 points it's going to be a very – I really think this game is going to be plus minus, let's say, 3.5. Like, I really think it's going to be down to the wire, who has the ball, who's really kind of possessed the ball the most,
Mm-hmm.
and that's obviously kind of what statistically wins games is who can possess the ball. But both defenses come in very well. I don't really believe that there's going to be a lot of scoring either side. I really see this game as being a closer game, very small game, 14-10, maybe, like kind of right there. I think for Western to win, they're going to have to truly dominate the box, like they've been with their edges and truly set the edges. But the linebackers are going to have to set up. They're going to have to be able to show up and tackle Howard Russell. Sorry, I was saying it backwards. But you're going to have to show up and make the play. This kid's going to continue to extend the drive. And for Pueblo, you're going to have to be able to contain Nash, obviously force him. I'd kind of go with the South Dakota Mines kind of trick, try to force him to more or less stay in the pocket and step up and not really run the ball. And that's not saying that he can't, right? Like, I mean, he's already proved he can throw 400 yards by throwing in the pocket. But if you make him one-dimensional, you now are putting your defense or your DBs, who, I mean, honestly, kind of are up there for being the best unit in the RMAC right now as a whole, and you're putting your best unit out there, and especially with two-time All-American Daniel Bone back there, like, hey, throw me the ball, But I really think it's going to be a 4-point game, plus 3.5 is kind of where I'm saying, right? Like, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna take my boys.
It's only right, man. It's only right.
I've been there. I've played there. I hope the walk and the halftime is
It's
the
not
same
up the
thing.
hill.
I wish it was the same feeling because there's nothing like feeling like in middle school again, eating oranges on the ground at your halftime, like over by trees. Like there's really no feeling like that. But I think really Pueblo. I think they get it done. I think they kind of show up and possess the ball longer, and that's kind of what their offense is built to do is possess the ball. They want to score, but if they can run the ball, they will win the game.
We got a comment here that I want to highlight. If Pueblo wins, it gets interesting. And we're gonna pull back on that second part of the comment when we get to Mines and Highlands. But he's absolutely spot on. If Pueblo wins, this gets very interesting because everybody has one loss now. Now It's like who following that, like if Pueblo were to win and everybody has one loss, Mesa or Western is going to eliminate themselves from tying for that conference title.
Yep.
But mine still has the opportunity to play spoiler next week. So a lot riding on this game. It should be a banger. I'm gonna wake up super early and drive myself up to Gunnison. I'm hoping that pass isn't snowed on right now, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be. I think whoever wins the turnover battle is going to win this game.
I agree. Yeah, that's a good one.
Our next game, though, although Mesa kind of has, so to start the year, me and Miles had talked a lot about there kind of being a big three: Pueblo, Mines, Western, and then it was like a race to see who from that middle tier could kind of jump into that next tier and challenge. I feel like Mesa has shown themselves to be that team, but as of late, Black Hills have been playing some good football. I saw them in person a couple weeks ago. I thought they should have beat Pueblo. They won a close one against a very whether Shadon is winning these games or not, that is a tough unit, especially that defense. It's one of the better defenses probably in the country, statistically speaking. So Black Hills seems like they're kind of rounding into form a little bit and maybe kind of following Mesa's lead. They get matched up this weekend in Grand Junction. Last year, this was a close game. You were there in person for it. Black Hills ends up winning it. Do you think they can go to Grand Function again and get it done?
I do not. I think this year is completely different. I think Mesa gets revenge. That game was again a couple plays. I can go back to I think it was 3rd and 2 or 4th and 2. Noah Sewell. Was running back, right?
Nolan Sussel.
Yeah,
Sussel. I'm sorry, Nolan.
Cecil, right? Cecil. He gets hit in the back, then he gets like messed up, then he bounces out, extends it, and it sets up Black Hills to kick the field goal and really win the game. And then the week later, the kid missed 2 field goals from the same distance, which kind of blew her mind on the coaching staff. But that was as a coach. I think this year, Mesa's not the same team. They are not a team that's going to let teams kind of be around them. This defense has kind of proven that they are willing to be the backbone. And if they can show out and show up like they have been doing the last couple of weeks, and obviously keep that 14.4 or less, because obviously they got the 0 this last week, but that 14.4 or less, I believe they will win this game because I do think the offense puts up at least 28 points this week, and that is enough, I think, to get a win over Mesa. Over Black Hills, sorry.
Now, I agree with you. I do think Mesa wins this game, but I don't know about Mesa scoring 28 points. The only time Mesa's looked really explosive offensively, by my eye, is Adams State and last week against Fort Lewis. I think Black Hills defense isn't bad at all. Especially what Black Hills is good at, their front seven stopping the run. is what Mesa wants to do. So it's going to be strength on strength. So I think this is going to be I think it's going to be a little bit closer just because Black Hills is kind of trending up. But I do think Mesa is just a step above Black Hills as they currently stand. I think they got a little bit more talent just throughout their team. So I think Mesa gets it done. But because Mesa is going to try to ground and pound you and play defense, I can see this being a close game. I can see this being a 17-13, 17-14 game. But I do think Mesa gets their revenge. I think a lot of those guys that played in that game as freshmen and young guys last year, they remember how that felt. They're all still here this year. I think they get their revenge, and I think Mesa gets it done. But I don't think they win like in a landslide or anything. This game, I'm going back and forth on, kind of similar to Western and Pueblo. Like, SC Mines, last time we seen them, it should have beat Western. They had Western's number and gave it away. Shadon on the other end, like we said, drives down, is in position to keep the game going and possibly win, and they lose it. I think this game is going to be close. I don't see SD Mines really just running roughshod over Shadron's defense. I think Shadron, you see these statistics. Shadron has a really good defense, but I worry about Shadron's offense and just being able to do enough to get it done. Obviously, DJ Ralph statistically is doing his thing, but it hasn't materialized in a win. And I think until I see that happen, I think I'm gonna go with the Hard Rockers to win a close 1-2.
I'm against you again. I really think I think Shatter's gonna come out with this. They're pissed. They've been close. They've been close many games, and they're hungry. I mean, you see it they're putting themselves to win and they lose. And this game again is not too far away from each other. It's really not. So this is kind of another not too far rivalry games. South Dakota Mines used to drive in 10 hours, 11 hours to go play games. Now they only have to drive, I think, less than 4 hour trip to play Shadon. And Shadon's kind of the same. They have to drive 5-6 hours to go play teams. They're finally like, hey, cool, we're at home and we have to play somebody who's in our backyard. So I really do think Shadon comes out and wins. DJ Ralph puts up almost if he puts up another 400. I mean, you just got to be like, it's Mr. Automatic at this point. But I think he does a lot to extend that offense, and that defensive front is enough to give them a shot. I think Mines is going to give them a good test at the beginning. The first 2 quarters, I believe it's going to be pretty close, but Shadow is going to be able to hold them off and really not allow them to do much in the second half. It's just kind of where I'm seeing it. It's hopes and prayers, because I want to beat you this week. But yeah, I think Shadron, and I'll say it's going to be about I'll say Shadron -6.5.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm going to pop this comment back up because it is definitely relevant to this game. But Wesley expects Highlands to be more competitive, and yeah, he thinks Mines, the upset is on the table. Do you think the upset's on the table in this one? They are traveling down I-25 to New Mexico. Do you think Highlands, with their formula of ground and pound, do you think they can do it? Before you answer that, let me remind you that last night, Southern Nazarene 0-8 beat Ouachita Baptist 8-0 at Ouachita. So before you answer, just think about that.
I do agree with that. That game was absolutely insane. The calling for the broadcast was perfect.
The man Rex.
Dude, I mean, I don't know who he roots for because he's like in it for both teams. Dude, I was like, come on, man. Who we got to win this game? He's up there screaming for it. And I was, man. I don't think that's this case. I do think Mines, they're going to be very upset. They know that they are this close from not making the playoffs, and that senior group is this close from that being their legacy.
Yeah.
You know, you go through, you've had 3 years of winning rings, your senior year, you don't make the playoffs. That's a tough pill to hurt. And that's also from my side, that happened to me. So I think Mines doesn't want that to happen. I think they come out and they prove a point. And I think the offense for Highlands can do a lot, but that defense is just not there yet. They're obviously, I mean, they're giving up 42. It's not beautiful to look at, especially when you have the ore diggers walking into your city after they get done doing their chemistry 4, trigonometry 7 paperwork. But that is, you know, what they're gonna get coming towards them, and they've got a very upset team ahead.
I think I'm with you here. Although I highlighted that upsets can happen any and everywhere, I don't believe that this one's going to be an upset. I think that fourth quarter from Mines was very telling about how they'll play the rest of the season. This is the playoffs now for Mines. Round 1 of the playoffs starts this week if they want to keep this season going. And you bring up a really good point about legacy, dude. There are some guys on this team that have been around, that have been starters and major contributors to these national title teams and qualifiers. So I know they really don't want to end on such a sour note. So I think that might have been the kick in the butt that they needed, and I think they get a resounding dub on the road down in New Mexico. And then our last game of the week, which obviously this one people wanted to talk most about, we got Fort Lewis and Adams. Adams still winless very late into the season. This is looking like probably their last opportunity at a win. What do you think the Grizzlies' chances are of getting it done on their home field?
Well, this is a big rivalry. I believe it's one of the top 10 longest lasting rivalries in D2. I believe it's called the Musket Game. So it's going to be a big game for both teams. Obviously, both teams are hungry. I'm going to go ahead and point at the elephant in the room. Fort Lewis, they have not beat a D2 team in multiple years. They got their first win in which they played a NAIA, correct? So here's your chance to not only get your first D2 win, but your first conference win in multiple years. I mean, 5, maybe 6 years. And so I really think, the chance for Adams, it is high. It's higher than a lot of the weeks that they have had. But I do not believe it's going to be high enough. I think Fort Lewis kind of has a team that can put enough fire on early to kind of jump out, and then they have a team that can kind of, if you kind of get back into it, they can kind of flirt with you a little, right? Well, Adams has a team that's going to be able to play with you, and then they kind of disappear. So that's kind of my perspective of where I see the second, third quarter will predict this game. I don't think it's going to be the first. I think the fourth is kind of also going to be kind of a bar, kind of fun. But those 2 inner quarters will be deciding factor. I think Stonewalker's going to prove a point that this is where we're going to start looking at ourselves now. And if Fort Lewis comes out of this game with 2 wins, you got to give a tip of the hat to the coach out there. I mean, like, you come in not really blessed with a beautiful roster, and you kind of have to truly build from the ground up, and that's what he's doing. So
would be a little poetic if Fort Lewis won with their last conference and D2 win being in October of 2019 against none other than the Grizzlies. My take is based on their seasons. Obviously, Fort Lewis and Stone Walker have drummed up some excitement within all of us that follow the RMAC and whatnot. We all want to see Fort Lewis kind of get back in the saddle. But I think I'm actually going to go with Adams in this one. I think Stone's had a rough couple of weeks since that Pueblo game, since he got banged up a little bit. I don't know, like, how confident can he be? He came off an injury, played Mesa. That's not very fun. Whereas Adams just had, like, obviously we're grading on a curve, but they just had their best offensive performance of the season that I can remember. I could see Adams being on their home field. It's going to be a night game under the lights. I'm going to go with the Grizzlies. I'm gonna risk it all, put it on the Grizzlies to win by more than 3, but less than 2. Somewhere.
All right.
So,
I'll take the set. I'll take 6.5 because I think they're going to win by literally just a single touchdown. But AC, I don't think we've agreed once tonight on a single matchup.
hey man, you went to Pueblo, I went to Mesa. Should we be agreeing?
I mean, you know what, y'all, it's I mean, dude, we're kind of blessed. We're getting, like last week we talked about these games. We're getting into the fire, and we're getting into them.
I think next week's show is going to be a lot. I think it's going to be super interesting because I think that game in Gunnison is going to be a real treat. I'm super excited I'm able to go. We're gonna get the show out earlier next week, people. We're sorry, but
yeah. I hope everybody had a happy Halloween. Hope you're all out there with families. Bless the ones that got to go out trick or treat. Hope you had a fun one. I worked all day in my Woody costume and then handed out candy, had a fun time. But you know,
is that really a costume for you, bro?
I mean, honestly, nowadays I don't know. But yeah, man, next week I think we're shooting probably Wednesday. We'll get this thing going, and we're gonna have a lot to talk about because it's shaping up. The RMAC title, it's within grasp.
Oh yeah.
Who's gonna grab it? We're about to find out.
Well, hey, that's another week from us. I hope to see you guys at the games, and we'll look forward to getting back and talking some more RMAC football next week. But that's all for us tonight. You guys have a good one.